I just met my real soulmate. Goodbye, loser. She texted at 3:00 a.m. from a club sending photos of her kissing some guy. I didn't respond. Just went back to sleep. In the morning, I packed everything and left. My note, congratulations. She came home at noon and called me crying. Her soulmate had ghosted her. I said, wrong number, and hung up. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. And if you have your own story to share, send it to me. My contact info is in the description below. I'd love to feature it in an upcoming video. Thanks. I didn't realize I was just a utility bill with a heartbeat until the very end. For 3 years, I was the safe option. I was the guy who paid the rent on the 2-bedroom apartment in the city centre. I was the guy who made sure the car insurance was auto-renewed, the fridge was stocked, and the credit card debt, mostly hers, was managed. I was the foundation. But as anyone in construction will tell you, nobody looks at the foundation. They look at the view, and Jessica loved the view. Jessica was 26, but she lived like she was 18 with a platinum card. She worked part-time as a social media coordinator for a boutique that barely broke even, which meant she spent 6 hours a day scrolling TikTok and 2 hours pretending to work. Meanwhile, I was pulling 6 0-hour weeks in logistics management, putting out fires, and dealing with supply chain nightmares just to come home to a sink full of dishes and a girlfriend who sighed when I asked how her day was. The cracks didn't appear overnight. They were micro fractures that I ignored because I thought that's what loyalty was. I thought being a man meant absorbing the chaos and providing the stability. The real breaking point, though I didn't know it at the time, happened 2 days before the end. It was a Tuesday. I had just walked in the door at 8:00 p.m. dragging my feet. I had been up since 5. My eyes were burning from staring at spreadsheets. And all I wanted was to heat up some leftovers, watch an episode of something mindless, and pass out. Jessica was sitting on the kitchen counter, scrolling on her phone, a half-empty glass of wine next to her. She didn't look up when I came in. Hey, I said, dropping my keys in the bowl, did you eat? I ordered sushi. She said, still looking at the screen, there wasn't enough for you, though I didn't know when you'd be back. I looked at the empty takeout containers on the coffee table. I hadn't eaten since lunch. Okay, no problem. I'll make a sandwich. I started pulling things out of the fridge. Ham, cheese, the last of the mustard. As I stood there, spreading mustard on stale bread, she finally looked at me. It wasn't a look of affection. It was a look of pure, unadulterated boredom. Is this it? Mark, she asked. I paused, knife in hand. Is what it... This, she gestured vaguely at me. The sandwich, the apartment, the routine. You come home, you look exhausted. You eat a sandwich. You go to sleep. It's just so grey. I took a slow breath, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. It's called working. Yes, sir. I'm tired. I'm doing this so we can afford the trip to Cabo you want for your birthday. She rolled her eyes. Hopping off the counter, it's not about the money. You always make it about money. It's about the spark, the fire. You act like you're 40. You're so safe. You're so predictable. Stable. I corrected her. I'm stable. You're boring. She snapped, her voice rising. I need a man who makes me feel alive. Mark, not a man who makes me feel like I'm sitting in a waiting room. She stormed past me into the bedroom, slamming the door. I stood there in the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. I ate my sandwich over the sink. I didn't go in to comfort her. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel the urge to apologize for being the one who kept the lights on. 2 days later, it was Friday. The week had been a grinder. A shipment from overseas had been seized at customs, and I had spent 12 hours on the phone with brokers and angry clients. My brain felt like it had been put through a blender. When I got home, I felt physically heavy, like gravity was working double time on my bones. The apartment smelled like expensive perfume and hairspray. Jessica was in the living room. and she looked incredible. I can't deny that she was wearing a short black dress that I knew cost $300 because I saw the charge on the statement last week. Her hair was done. Her makeup was flawless. She looked electric. She was also blasting music, bouncing around the room while pouring a shot of tequila. Girls' night. She announced before I could even speak, "Don't wait up." I wasn't planning on it. I said, loosening my tie, I'm dead on my feet. She looked at the me with that same mixture of pity and disdain she had shown on Tuesday. She walked over not to kiss me, but to grab her clutch from the table behind me, try to have a pulse while I'm gone. "Okay," she said, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. "I need to blow off some steam. I need to be around people who actually know how to have fun. Have a good time." I said, my voice was flat. She didn't say goodbye. She just walked out the door, the click of her heels echoing in the hallway until the elevator dinged. I locked the door, stripped off my work clothes, and collapsed into bed. It was 9:30 p.m. I didn't know it yet, but that was the last time I would ever sleep in that bed as her boyfriend. I closed my eyes, letting the exhaustion take me, unaware that while I was sleeping, she was out there finding her spark, and she found him. I woke up because the phone vibrated against the nightstand, a harsh, buzzing insect sound in the dead quiet of the room. I cracked one eye open. The digital clock read 3:14 a.m. My first thought was a work emergency, a truck overturned on the interstate or a warehouse fire. I fumbled for the phone, squinting against the blinding white light of the screen. It wasn't work. It was a text from Jessica. There was no caption at first, just an image. It took my sleep-deprived brain a few seconds to focus on what I was seeing. It was blurry, taken in the low strobe chaos of a nightclub. In the center of the frame was Jessica, her head thrown back, her eyes closed in what looked like ecstasy, and mashing his face against hers, kissing her like he was trying to devour her, was a guy. He looked like every bad boy cliche rolled into one. Greasy hair, leather jacket, too much jewelry. The kind of guy who smells like cheap cologne and bad decisions. Then the text bubble popped up underneath it. I finally found him, a real man, someone with fire who actually gets me. We're soulmates. Sorry, Mark, but you're just flat. Goodbye. Loser. Don't wait up. I stared at the screen. I read it once, then I read it again. I waited for the rage. I waited for the heartbreak, the crushing chest pain, the urge to throw the phone across the room or call her screaming. I waited for the panic that usually comes when your life falls apart. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt light. It was a physical sensation. Like a heavy rucksack I'd been hiking with for 3 years had suddenly been cut from my shoulders. The constant anxiety about her spending the walking on eggshells to avoid being called boring. The exhaustion of being the only adult in the relationship. It all evaporated in the glow of that screen. She had given me the one thing I couldn't give myself. An out, a clean, undeniable, guilt-free exit. Okay, I whispered to the empty room. I didn't reply. I didn't screenshot it yet. I simply turned the phone to silent, placed it face down on the nightstand, and rolled over. And then I did something that still surprises people. When I tell this story, I went back to sleep. It wasn't the sleep of the depressed. It was the sleep of the liberated. For the first time in years, I didn't have to worry about whether she was coming home safe. She wasn't my problem anymore. She belonged to this soulmate now. I slept deeply, dreamlessly, and woke up at 8:00 a.m. sharp without an alarm. The apartment was silent. The bed beside me was still made undisturbed. I got up and made coffee. I drank it, standing by the window, looking out the city, feeling a strange, cold clarity. Then I went to work, not my job. The work of erasing myself from her life. I pulled my suitcases from the top of the closet. I didn't pack everything. I didn't want the furniture, the TV she picked out, or the plates we bought together. I wanted travel, light, freedom. I packed my clothes, my laptop, my documents, my watch collection, and the few sentimental items that were strictly mine. It took me 45 minutes. Next, I opened my laptop. I logged into our joint bank account. The one I contributed 90% of the funds to. I transferred my entire savings balance into my personal account. Then I logged into the credit card portal. I saw the pending charges from last night. The Velvet Room, 450美元. Uber Black, 85美元. Late Night Liquor, 120美元. She was financing her betrayal on my dime. I clicked report lost, stolen on the card she carried. The system automatically cancelled it immediately. Then I called the landlord. Hey, Mr. Henderson, it's Mark. I need to invoke the lease break clause. I'm transferring the fee and the next 2 months' rent right now, but remove my name from the lease effective immediately. Jessica will be taking over. Is she aware? He asked, sounding confused. She will be. I said, I transferred the money. It was expensive, painfully so, but it was the price of freedom. Bijishing zero. I was done. My bags were by the door. The apartment looked exactly the same, but it felt hollowed out. I took the spare key off my ring and placed it on the kitchen counter. I grabbed a yellow sticky note and a Sharpie. I wrote one word, congratulations. I stuck it to the counter. I didn't look back. I walked out, locked the door, and got into my car. I drove to a nice hotel downtown, checked in, and ordered a massive breakfast. I was halfway through a plate of Eggs Benedict when my phone started buzzing. It was noon. I looked at the screen. Jessica, he let it ring. It stopped, then started again immediately. Then a text, then another mark, then another call. I took a sip of coffee, wiped my mouth with a napkin, and swiped to answer. Hello. My voice was calm. Level. Mark. She was screaming, not angry, screaming, panicked, hysterical, screaming. The background noise was chaotic. Sounds of traffic and wind. Where are you? Oh my God. Where are you? I'm at breakfast. I said, why? What do you mean, why? I'm stranded. My card isn't working. It got declined for the Uber. I'm standing on the side of the road in a dress and heels. I could hear the tears in her voice. The hyperventilating gasps. Okay. I said, okay. That's all you have to say. I need you to come get me. Send me an Uber. Something is wrong with the bank account. I cut a piece of sausage. Where is your soulmate? There was a silence on the line, a heavy suffocating pause, then a fresh wave of sobbing, louder and uglier than before. He left. She choked out. I woke up in the hotel and he was gone. He said he was going to get coffee and he checked out. Mark? He left me there with the bill. They made me pay the room service fee with my emergency cash. He blocked me on everything. Of course he did. He was a shark and he saw a wounded seal swimming in shallow water. He got what he wanted. Realized she was messy and drunk and ghosted before the sun came up. That sounds stressful. I said, Mark, please. She wailed. I'm sorry. Okay. I was drunk. It was a mistake. I didn't mean any of those texts. I was stupid. Please, just come pick me up. We can talk about this. I love you. I love you hung in the air like a bad smell. It was so desperate. So fake. You don't love me. Yes, I said you love that. I pay for your life. That's not true. Please. Baby. Stop punishing me. Just come get me. I'm not punishing you. I said, I'm listening to you. You said I was boring. You said you found a real man. You said goodbye. I didn't mean it. I did. I said I moved out. Jess, the apartment is yours. The lease is in your name now. The joint account is closed. The cards are cancelled. What? Her voice dropped to a whisper. What do you mean you moved out? I packed this morning while you were sleeping off your soulmate session. I'm gone. The key is on the counter. You can't do that. She stammered. The anger starting to bleed through the panic. You can't just leave me like this. I have no money. How am I supposed to pay rent? How am I supposed to get home? Asked the guy with the fire. I said, maybe he has a bus pass. Mark, you're being a psychopath. You're abandoning me. You texted goodbye. Loser. I reminded her. The loser listened. You have the wrong number. Mark, don't you dare. I hung up. I stared at the phone for a second. Then blocked her number. I took another bite of my eggs. They were perfectly cooked. The silence didn't last long. I knew it wouldn't. Blocking Jessica was like putting a lid on a boiling pot. Eventually, the pressure has to go somewhere. It started about 2 hours after I hung up on her. My phone lit up with a call from Sarah, Jessica's bestie. Sarah was the kind of friend who encouraged Jessica's bad behavior because she was miserable in her own marriage. I sent her to voicemail. Then came the text, a barrage of them. Sarah, you are a piece of SHD. She is hysterical. How could you leave her with nothing? Sarah, pick up the phone. Howard, I ignored them. I was busy booking a long-term Airbnb and setting up my new life, but then came the final boss, Jessica's mother. Her mother had never liked me. She thought I was too blue-collar for her princess, despite the fact that I earned triple what her husband did. Linda, Mom, I just got off the phone with my daughter. She is sobbing. You abandoned her in a crisis after 3 years. You are a small, vindictive little man. You will fix this, or I will come to your office and make a scene. You won't forget. That was the line. Threatening my job. Threatening the piece I had just bought with a lease break fee. I realized Jessica hadn't told them the truth. She had spun a narrative where I was the villain who snapped for no reason. She was protecting her reputation while destroying mine. Isal unlocked my phone and opened our main friend group chat. About 12 people, including Sarah, a few of her cousins, and our mutual friends. Then I opened a direct message to her mother. I didn't type a long defense. I didn't argue about my character. I simply attached one image, the screenshot of the text she sent me at 314A. The photo of her tongue down the biker's throat, and her words in high definition, I finally found him. We're soulmates. Goodbye. Loser. I added a simple caption to the group chat. Since everyone is asking why I left, Jessica broke up with me last night to be with her soulmate. I just respected her decision. Please direct all questions to him. I sent the same image to her mother with a note. Here is the crisis. You mentioned maybe this soulmate can help with the rant. The reaction was instantaneous. The typing bubbles appeared and disappeared. Then silence. Sarah didn't text back. Her mother didn't reply. The flying monkeys had been shot out of the sky with a single bullet of truth. They couldn't defend her. There was no spinning goodbye, loser. 2 weeks later, I got a final email from the landlord. It was a courtesy. Really, Jessica had failed to pay the rent. Since my name was off the lease, he was initiating eviction proceedings. He mentioned that when he went to inspect the unit, the place was a wreck. Garbage everywhere. Wine stains on the carpet. She had unraveled without a host to parasitize. She couldn't survive. She ended up moving back in with her parents in the suburbs. The very fate, she considered a fate worse than death, 90 days. That's how long it takes to fully detox from a bad life. 3 months later, I was a different person. I had a new apartment closer to my office, a loft with exposed brick that Jessica would have hated. I was going to the gym 4 days a week. My skin was clearer. My bank account was growing again. I slept like a baby every single night. I was grabbing a coffee on a Sunday morning, reading the news on my phone. When I felt a shadow over my table, I looked up. It was her. But it wasn't the Jessica from the club photo. This Jessica looked grey. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. Her roots were showing, and she was wearing sweatpants that had seen better days. She looked tired, defeated. Mark, she said. Her voice was small. I didn't stand up. I didn't smile. I just looked at her over the rim of my cup. Jessica. She shifted her weight, clutching her purse strap. I saw your car outside. I wanted to see how you were. I'm doing great. I said simply, what do you want? She flinched at the coldness. I wanted to apologize properly. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. You didn't hurt me. I corrected her. You freed me. She bit her lip, tears welling up in her eyes. Please don't say that. My life is a disaster. Mark? I'm living with my mom. I lost the apartment. All our friends stopped talking to me after you posted that photo. I have nobody. She paused, waiting for me to soften, waiting for the white knight instinct to kick in. I miss us. She whispered, I miss my best friend. Can't we just get coffee? Start over. I realized what I lost. I set my cup down slowly. You didn't lose anything. Jessica, I said, my voice calm enough to cut glass. You threw it away. You held a winning lottery ticket in your hand. A man who loved you, supported you, and built a life for you. and you traded it for a shot of tequila and a stranger in a leather jacket, everyone makes mistakes. She cried. A few people in the shop turning to look. Cheating isn't a mistake. I said, standing up and grabbing my keys, it's a series of choices. You chose to go to the club. You chose to kiss him. You chose to send that text. And I chose to believe you. I walked past her toward the door. She reached out and grabbed my arm. Mark, please. He was nothing. You're the one I want. I looked down at her hand on my sleeve until she let go. You don't want me. I said, you want the rent paid. You want the safety. But that's the thing about safety. Yes, once you burn the shelter down, you don't get to complain about the rain. So that's it. She sobbed. 3 years meant nothing. It meant a lesson. I said, I pushed the door open, the bell chiming cheerfully above me. Goodbye. Jessica. I walked out into the sunshine. I didn't check to see if she was watching. I didn't care. I got into my car, turned on the radio, and drove away. I had a life to live. And for the first time in a long time, it was all mine. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.